She goes, well,
And I'm no
How
child.
old? How old did we say our kobolds are again?
I'm 27.
Oh, then I guess Snap would be 27 too.
Yeah.
but she kind of like straightens up and crosses her arms. And she goes, well, you're just weird. And she like sticks her tongue out at you.
What a very mature thing to say, madam.
As you say that, she kind of like, fuck.
At this point,
yeah.
Snap is approaching it. It's just like, wow, I like her. She knows how to talk back to you.
Well, maybe holy work isn't what she should be pursuing. Maybe she should become a bard.
Make a what's the check for this?
Persuasion?
Yeah, you're more or less just trying to persuade her. Yeah, go ahead and roll persuasion.
Oh,
7.
7. She's like, no, I like what I do at the temple. It's for me. She goes,
For you.
she goes,
are
yes.
you a priestess in training?
She's like, no, not a priestess. Kind of, and her uncle kind of like cuts her off and says, that's not important. So what do you two
Hold
do?
on, you're not one of them battle nuns, are you?
She's like, well, I am being trained in the art of combat.
Oh, so you are a battle nun.
She goes, I don't think those exist.
Oh, they
Oh.
totally do. The Zanetian battle nuns. You've never heard? And from Zanetia? It's one of the continents in the lower hemisphere. The Zanetian battle nuns, an elite task force of female religious individuals that infiltrate other places. And they either do assassinations or thefts in the name of their dark god,
She's kind of like,
Zabimbam.
you just had to say Bim Bam. She kind of like leans back and says, I don't know what to say to that.
You've never heard of the Zanetian battle nuns?
She's like, no, I study combat, military training, holy scriptures, stuff like that. That's what I do all day.
Well, surely you've heard of the kingdom of, well, nation of Zanetia, correct?
She goes, I'm not familiar.
My goodness. I'll turn to Snap. I don't know what they're teaching her there. If not basic
Please.
geography.
Please stop teasing the girl. We just got here and I don't want to get kicked out.
I'm not teasing. I'm concerned. She doesn't know about Zanetia.
Would that be a real continent in this setting?
It would not. It would be. There's a continent to the lower hemisphere. It's not called Zanetia, and it does not have battle nuns. The closest thing to battle nuns would
just be like clerics, right?
clerics of any faith, but there's no real specific faction that's all women or nuns.
Not yet, anyway.
You always start one.
Yeah. Maybe you should start one.
She like says, I think I'm gonna go get a pig in a blanket, and she turns and walks away. And the elfish gentleman kind of leans down to you and whispers, She doesn't get out much. She's very closed off. But thank you for trying.
Which is why we shouldn't be bullying the poor girl.
I'm not bullying her. I'm trying to make things fun, okay? Fill her mind full of mystery and whimsy instead of just,
Yes, but there's that, and then there's just lying to her for your own amusement.
Ugh.
All right. So the party continues on. But it starts to wind down as the hours go. People are, still chatting, but the food starts to disappear. The drinks start to come out. Some of the people do get quite intoxicated, and you see maybe one or two kind of standing woozily, and then a couple other people like buzzed and just chatting up a storm.
Wow, sure is a good thing I don't drink alcohol.
I'm gonna pull out my wand of secrets,
Okay.
and I'm going to wave it.
All right.
I'm gonna use one of the 3 charges, and while holding it, you can use an action to expend one of its charges if a secret door or trap is within 30 feet of me. The wand pulses and points to the nearest one.
All right. What's the radius? 30 feet?
30 feet.
You don't pick up anything.
Interesting. I'll slide it back into my into my sleeve.
Yeah. As you had pulled out the wand and cast it, you do see some of the guards like grab their sides and then they stop. Like, oh, it's not what we thought, and then they go back to their business.
I'll turn and look at the guards and say, I farted and I didn't want anyone to smell it. I was merely casting prestidigitation to hide the smell.
Snap is just like creeping away from you like, I'm not associated.
I say, though this is a costume, they are still rather sulfurous.
I am
Do the guards
not associated.
Make a deception
do the
check.
guards look... Deception?
Deception.
Woo!
You could have literally
14.
said anything else, like you were
14.
just performing a magic trick.
2 of the guards, like, okay, that checks out. But the third guy crosses arms and just shoots daggers at you. Now more than ever trained on what you or your brother is doing.
That's fine.
At this point, you see Sebastian has downed maybe 2 or 3 drinks. And his...
Oh, Sebastian's getting turned.
he's talking, he's a little loud, almost too loud, but not, not shouting, but he is raising his voice to speak over the murmur. And it seems his inhibitions may have gone away, and he's much more, what's the word?
Loose.
Yeah, loose works, yeah. He's not as stiff or as fearful as usual. And he's just conversing with people, and they're laughing and talking, and at one point you do hear him go, well, I did used to work for a man named the Iron Lily. And let me tell you. And he starts just
Snap
going...
is rushing over. And it just like starts pulling him away from them.
He's like, no,
And
it's
just,
fine. Like, I'm just telling him about my old work. I used to work.
Is there any artwork in the room?
You're outside still. You haven't gone in the house. It's like a front garden with a small...
Oh, is there any artwork like statues?
There are some statues, yes.
Are there anyone like admiring the statues?
I'd say maybe 1 or 2 people every now and then kind of looks over and they're like, oh, look at that prestigious piece of art. And the statues, there's 4 statues. Each one is of the same person, which looks like a male elf, and he's striking different poses. He's wearing armor in one, robes in the other, completely nude in one. And in the final one, it looks like he may have lost a battle or something, and he's just kind of standing there wounded.
Oh my goodness.
It's Kiln's boyfriend.
Yeah. I'll go over and admire the art and use my expertise in like art and like being able to say, oh yes, you can definitely tell that the artist is using a very specific technique of stone cutting.
All right, give me a history check.
All right. 19.
19. You would recognize these immediately as depictions of the elven god Tira.
Tira.
Oh my god, Tira and the Princesses of Power.
Shira.
But you would also recognize immediately these are counterfeits.
Oh, these are counterfeits.
They're very good counterfeits, but they're not from his era. This is much more recent, probably commissioned to look like ancient statues of Tira, but you can see the minor differences, the use of modern magics and stuff like that.
I'll pull a hanky out and start waving it in the air and be like, everyone, these are counterfeits. These aren't real.
Snap once again, just like covering his face, not looking at you. We're not associated, Sebastian.
very well hidden, but with a trained eye such as myself, these are very clearly counterfeits. You can tell that technique of carving in regards to that portion of the body was not used in the time that these are supposed to be from. The true elven masters didn't need to have braces on the bottom to have the statue stand up. They were good enough to have the statue stand of its own. But you can tell, like, but that small little log that's carved near the foot, that's not there to look pretty. That's a brace because whoever tried to do this counterfeit couldn't quite figure out how to get the statue to stand of its own volition.